Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel and welcome again to another painting tutorial. And if you're new to my channel, hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy my painting videos and other videos related to painting. So today I decided to paint another landscape painting. We will be doing again some light play, and the atmosphere of this painting will be more of summery vibe and more of greens more than autumn or any other colors. So we will only be using a few colors today that are familiar to a lot of all of you. So here are the colors that we'll be using for today's painting tutorial. So we have here Sap Green, Black, Lemon Yellow, Burnt Sienna, Yellow Ochre, and Titanium White, which we will be using a lot today. So we will be sketching first the subject before I proceed to painting. So for the sketch part, I'll be using my green. So my sap green, I'm gonna add a little bit of black, just to let you know how things are gonna go in this painting. So this will be more of a hilly type of scenery. So there will be a slope like this. So the foreground is quite sloping, or an uphill foreground like that. All right, like that. And then there will be a tree here. All right, so there will be a tree right here. Also a tree here on the foot of the hill. Okay. And then also here. Okay, like that. There will be branches. And of course, we'll be doing some background trees. Actually, this is just the sketch. So as I told you guys, the sketch is just a way of identifying where things are gonna go. Just to give you an idea of how it's gonna look like later. So let's begin underpainting now. I'll be changing my brush. I'll be using a larger brush. So I'll be using this brush. And I'm gonna underpaint the foreground. I'll be getting my burnt sienna, black, just mix it, and green, maybe tiny bit of yellow ochre, just a mixture of everything, just to make it more soily in appearance. So I'm just gonna underpaint this area. Alright, like that. So I'll be going back to this area later. I'm just gonna allow this area to dry. Alright, now I'm gonna underpaint the background. So for that, I'll be using this color, the one that we use for the soil or the foreground. But this time I'll be adding more white. So get your white. I forgot to place it on, or to put it on my palette. Okay, so I'm gonna get my white. I'm gonna add it here. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow. So add mid yellow. like that. So maybe this color, this will be the background, and I'm gonna use this color, or maybe I'm gonna darken it, guys. I don't want it to be super green. I'm gonna darken it. I just added some black. So this color, and I'm gonna use it to background my painting. It's quite abstractish, as you can see here, but I always start my paintings with, especially landscape, with some abstract style. By doing this, it saves you a lot of time in detailing. So yeah, just trust me on this, guys. We're gonna make it. Okay, now I'm gonna add black. I'm gonna get my black. Okay, and I'm gonna use this color right here. I'm gonna add burnt sienna as well. Just mix them. Okay, maybe here as well. All right, like that. Definitely not making sense, but that's the point. So now I'm gonna underpaint the tree trunks. I'm gonna get my black. I'm gonna add brown, and I'm just gonna use this color to already identify where the tree trunks are gonna go. Like that. Okay, and also here. I'm gonna shape the tree trunk in such a way that it doesn't look so straight. So I'm going to make some curves like this. All right. Okay, now I'm gonna make some branches. So using the same brush, I'm just gonna dab onto the same color for the tree trunks, and I'm just gonna go and make some suggestion of branches. Before we do the foliage, we should do this tree branches, so that the tree or the foliage overlap the tree branches. You can create small branches. Alright, like that. Okay, now let's do the foliage. Okay, let's do the foliage, guys. That's the most fun part, and this will, or those foliage will give this painting life. Okay, for the foliage, you can use your fan brush. I'm just gonna use my fan brush. I'm gonna dab onto my Sap Green. I'm gonna mix it with yellow ochre. Okay, like this. And I'm gonna use this to start doing, I'm gonna add burnt sienna. Start doing foliage. So just create, we will be doing this layer by layer, guys. Just enjoy the process of layering. Again, make your foliage overlap the tree branches or the tree trunks so that it looks more natural, more realistic. Okay, now I'm gonna dab onto my black. I need more black. So using my black, I'm just gonna create more suggestion of foliage. We're using black to create more depth. Alright, now I'm gonna darken my sap green by adding black. Just add black to your sap green. And I'm gonna use this to create more foliage right here. I'm gonna add burnt sienna and yellow ochre. Okay, I think it doesn't make a lot of difference. I'm gonna add yellow. So this color, guys, just add yellow. Let's see, yeah. Doesn't make so much of a difference, but it's not super black, and it's not super green. Okay, more yellow ochre. Okay, again, sap green, sap green and black. Just alternately use those colors, sap green and black. Again, we're not really using a lot of colors today. So all the colors in my palette, I'm just using for the foliage to create variations of leaves. Leaves colors. Now I'm gonna get my yellow green, but we're not washing our brush, okay? So we're allowing the remaining paints on the brush to mix with the yellow. Make sure that the yellow is the most dominant color, even if your colors mix with the other colors. Even if your color mixes with the other colors on your palette. Now let's do some light yellow colored foliage. And then I'm gonna water this so that I get that watery texture, and then I'm just gonna use my fingers to spread it like this. Make sure that you don't smear over the black paint. If it happens, it's all right, or it's just paint. Anyway, you can simply paint over those little accidents. All right, I'm gonna apply the same color right here. This will suggest light. Alright, now I'm gonna get my yellow green, or the yellow that we just used. I'm gonna add white to create a lighter version of that color. Add white, add yellow. It's too green now. I'm gonna use this color to highlight even more some areas on the painting. Okay, I'm gonna use the same color down here. Okay, we'll be highlighting it later. For now, let's just allow it to dry. All right. Okay, let's just move it. All right, like that. And now I'm gonna go back to that later. Before we highlight the tree trunks, let's go to the foreground because it seems so dull, right? Like there's no action going on here. So I'm gonna add this color, all right? This color that, the one that we just used for the highlighted part of the foliage. Just gonna use this to create more highlights on the foreground. Okay, I'm gonna get my Sap Green. Sap Green plus brown. I think we already had that color earlier. Okay, burnt sienna. I think I'll be using my palette knife later for this foreground. For now, let's just use our fan brush before we proceed to using that. Okay, again, burnt sienna. All right, now I'm gonna use some light green again. Oops, okay, I'm gonna correct that one. It's not the texture that I want for that. Okay, I'm gonna get my black just to make some more depth. Right, like this. Okay. I'm gonna get my white. Okay, without washing my brush, I'm just gonna dab onto my white. And I'm gonna highlight the background. Okay, maybe not white, guys. I'm gonna gray it, not super white. So make some gray, add tiny bit of black, and use this. All right. On the horizon. Also in between foliage. That. Okay, I'm gonna switch to my ordinary brush. I'm gonna get my Sap Green, mix that with tiny amount of black and yellow. So for the foreground, we're also layering. The more we layer, the more we create that natural look of the soil. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna get the brown and black. I'm just gonna extend the tree right here. Like that. And of course, other trees. Okay, and then using the same dark color, let's add a little bit of shadow, not too much, okay? I'm gonna dry brush diagonally. I'm not really covering the paint that I already did. I'm just trying to create some shadow suggestion. Add a little bit of green. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's do the light source before we go back to the foliage. Or maybe we should do the foliage first before we do the light play, because I might paint over the highlights if I do the light first. So let's go back to the foliage. I'm gonna get my black again and just try to fill in those white spaces that you see on your canvas if you're using a white canvas. Because if you use black, definitely you don't have to do this. Okay, I'm gonna get my burnt sienna. I'm gonna add a little bit of that color on the tree trunks. You don't have to do too much of that color, just to make sure that that color is there. Okay, now we're going to highlight. Since the light source is coming from the right side, we're going to highlight the right side of the tree trunks that are located on the left side. So for that, I'll be using my gray, the gray that we already had here. Maybe I'm gonna mix tiny bit of brown. All right, just tiny bit. Doesn't have to be too much, like this pastel brown color. And I'm gonna highlight the right side of the tree trunks. And for this tree, we're going to highlight the left side. Again, very subtle highlight. You don't have to highlight it like in your face highlight. Okay, and I'm gonna use the remaining colors to suggest more light. Remember, we're going to dry brush. So I'm gonna dry brush towards the light source with the, which is this area. So just use that color to create some sun rays. Alright, it should overlap the tree trunks to make it more real. So I'm gonna add another tree here on the background. But we're going to make it a little light later. So I'm just gonna add my gray. Alright, like that. Okay, I'm gonna get my pure white. Or maybe not pure white. I'm gonna add a little bit of primary blue. So get tiny bit of primary blue. All right, and I'm gonna add a little bit of primary blue to my white. We'll be doing some hints of skies in between the foliage. We don't want it to be just green and white. So using this color, I'm gonna insert this color in between foliage. Like this. Okay, I'm gonna use my pure white. Again, we're trying to identify where the light is coming. So make sure that it is emphasized. All right. Now I'm gonna get my yellow. So get your yellow and just highlight this area. Yellow first, guys, before we do white. Okay, here. And here as well. And then get your white, just highlight. Okay, again, get your white, try to highlight this area where the sunlight is hitting the ground. Make it more bright. Here, just create suggestion of the sun. Right, it's too bright, right? But we'll be adding more foliage because it got painted over. I mean, some foliage got painted over when we did the sunrise, the sunlight. So let's go back to doing the foliage. Or maybe not yet. I'm just gonna add a little bit of hint of yellow right here. Okay, a little bit of brownie orange. I mean brownie yellow. Okay, also here. These are the colors of the earth, guys. Okay, now let's go back to the foliage because some of them got painted over. So let's go and use our fan brush again. I'm gonna dab onto my green. I'm gonna add black. Okay, I'm gonna add yellow ochre. I'm gonna add black again. And some greens. right, and then I'm gonna get my pure yellow. Remember, it's just about layering. Just keep on layering until you get that full, super rich forest. Okay, like that. Okay, I'm gonna get my titanium white again, just to make sure that this area is super bright. Okay, I'm doing some highlights down here on the foreground. And using some dry brushing technique, yeah, we highlight different parts or different areas in the foreground quite randomly, because it's like dappled light hitting the foreground. So I'm gonna get my burnt sienna, gonna add black, gonna add water. It's too dry. I'm gonna use this to create more suggestion of light or shadows. My recommendation is that, or my advice is that, make it more watery so that when you do this step, it's easier to apply on the canvas. Gonna add a little bit of yellow. Again, white, just to clean I'm gonna get my burnt sienna and I'm just gonna spread it right here. Again, to emphasize more light, just around the light source and also on certain areas near the light source. Okay. Like that. Again, I'm making some areas quite blurry to really suggest that light. Okay, more light yellows. Let me check. Nice. Okay, more light greens. I really would like to have my trees like super full appearance. I would like to have it that super full appearance. Like, alright. Okay, I'm gonna get my black. Greens. All right, as I told you guys during the beginning of this video, I'll be using my palette knife to create more texture on the foreground. So get your palette knife, guys. I just want you to practice using your palette knife in creating texture. So for this, I'll be using my palette knife that is not super clean. I mean, it's clean, but it has a lot of dried acrylics on the plate. So I'm just gonna get my sap green, yellow, and burnt sienna. Mix them all together. Maybe you can add a little bit of black Okay, just to make that super soily color. And I'm gonna apply this quite randomly on the foreground. I don't know if you can see that. You probably won't. So I'm gonna apply more yellow ochre, okay, to make it, okay, like this. So you can go circular, diagonal, vertical in application, because again, the soil should be quite random. You know, when you look at it, it should look like you're in the nature, not in the concrete streets. Okay, again, I'm using dark greens, light greens, browns to create patterns on the soil that I really, really like. All right, like that. Okay, I'm gonna get my white. Okay, I'm gonna use my palette knife as well. This time, I will be touching on the horizon line. And on some areas as well, just to highlight some of the areas, not all, okay, just to give it some sort of light play. Okay, like that. Okay, more of that mixture of everything. You can even add yellow ochre, green, and burnt sienna to create that muddy texture, the color. Here as well, don't forget the corners. Right. Oh, nice. Oh my gosh. Now let's go back to doing some light play. I'll be using a cleaner brush because I don't want to risk, you know, I think this is pretty much dry. Just gonna get my white. And with my white, I'm just gonna try to, again, glaze over the areas near the light source. I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to smear any paint that is still wet. All right. Oh my gosh. This is so good. All right. So just more highlights on the foreground that is near the horizon. All right. I think this is good, guys. Super nice. I love it. Oh my god. I'm gonna sign this now because this is done. So I'm gonna sign this now, and I think I'll just be using my white since I still have a lot of white. And I'm gonna sign right here. We're finished. We're done, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one because I did. I really did. I'm just super enjoying doing landscape paintings recently. And I think, sorry guys, I'll be adding a little bit more of yellow near this area. It's too brown. So I'm just gonna apply a little bit of yellow to remove that harsh brown. Maybe white as well. You kind of don't want that super harsh brown that I applied. Just apply more foliage that got painted over when we glazed it. This is just a correction. Okay, we're finished, but I'm just trying to correct some areas that I made mistakes on. You can add some vines as well if you want. Right, like that. Oh yeah, I like it this better. I like it better. Don't forget the light source. Okay. Yep, so we're done, guys. And see you in my next video. I hope you enjoy that one. I also hope that you appreciate some corrections that we did. Yeah, so see you in my next video, guys. Bye.